Mic check. 1, 2, 3. Fantastic. Thank you. We've got Seisu, Jack, Bremen. Awesome. Fantastic. Glad you can hear me. Let's get into it. Howdy, howdy, howdy. I'm doing well. Bremen, how have you been? Welcome back, Rev. I really enjoyed your damn challenge entry, by the way. Anani, how you doing? Welcome back. Just cleaning the house. Oh my, year-end cleaning. Oh my. Yeah, my house needs some definite deep cleaning. Maybe I'll put it off till the spring. Just done all the recycling? Nice. No worries, Rev. I understand. I understand entirely. That's why I wanted to just make note and let you know I enjoyed your map. So how's everyone doing on this lovely Monday? My name is Mac. I'm the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. If you're new here, welcome, welcome. Today's stream is titled Mapmaker Monday, where I build a map live with not only my skills, but I use community feedback and insight to enhance the build. Currently, we're building in some temple ruins in a vast jungle swamp. This has been the build we've been working on for the past, I think, 3 weeks. This will be our 4th week. We usually work on it about an hour or 2 per week. So I think we've made some amazing progress so far. But as you see here, we've got a flooded floor level, right? And then a second floor with a little spider den. A tree is growing through the roof where there's a hole. We actually took a lot of time to put some collapsed structure around. Pillars falling, overgrowth. This little back entrance here with some scaffolding that was maybe put in ages ago. Hey, Mondu, welcome back. How you doing, bud? How was your weekend? In fact, how was everyone's weekend? Let's talk about it. I'm going to make sure all my stream feeds are live. I was waiting for Steam to go live. Steam appears to be live now. Fantastic. And I just want to remind our Steam viewers, well, all our viewers, in fact, the Dungeon Alchemist is currently 20% off right now. So, if you've had it on your wish list or you're kind of sitting on the fence thinking about getting it, now's the time because it's the best deal you can get on it. Oh my. We had family in town for a few days. My brother and my sister-in-law and his 2 kids were over for a couple of days. They bring their RV and camp in that, and it makes it easy because my wife being so immunocompromised, we try to minimize exposure. But had some fun with them, got to hang out with them a little bit. And then they hit the road again. think I'm gonna put like some structure like falling off of here. Things like this, piles of detritus. You know what I mean? These things help really seal or like kind of sell that this is collapsed. Some inside, some outside. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's interesting, Mondu. What's scarier than a Tarask? I've seen this game online where the DM has a pet cat, and the cat sometimes will go on the table and like mess with things and roll dice, and they treat it like a cosmic entity that is like interfered with the game every time it happens. So it's like, you know, some deity or eldritch horror that is shown up and taunting them and making things a pain in the butt for them. So it was a Tarask with sharks and lasers on it. Their previous characters were helping the Tarask. Jeez, that's nice of them. A Tarask NATO. That needs to be a movie, actually. That's brilliant, Bremen. You should copyright that, trademark it. Sharknado, psh, a Tarask NATO is something you need to fear. What's scarier than one Tarask? Seisu says 2 Tarasks. That's funny. Only 120 damage while pushing it 60 feet. The feat itself is what's to be marveled. What's scarier, a Tarask or the fighter that knocks it prone and pushes it 60 feet with brute force while dealing 120 damage to it? Like, what's a Tarask's overall damage, though? 120 seems like a drop in the bucket. Isn't it somewhere around 1K or more? Like, I'm sorry, I haven't looked at a Tarask stat block in a while. That's hilarious. 700-ish? Okay. So, you know, that's what? A good chunk, I guess. Still. Okay, so we need more detritus, stones, and the like. And then, what else should I add? I feel like this map's getting kind of to the point where it's almost done. How about y'all? AC of 25. How many legendary actions does it have? Or like, what are its legendary actions, I should say, not how many. Man, Tarasks used to be so much scarier. I'm going to add a bit more moss on this side. Hey. Hey, Tech Mario, welcome to the stream. My name is Mac. I'm the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. So Maps made in Dungeon Alchemist are allowed to be exported in a number of different assortments, primarily for tabletop RPGs. So games like D&D, Pathfinder, etc. So you build the map using Dungeon Alchemist, which can be multiple levels, mind you. So here we have a 4-story abandoned temple in a jungle. And then this can be exported for a variety of different platforms. Say you just want the images. Maybe you want to export it for Foundry, which is a very popular virtual tabletop. Again, Fantasy Grounds, Roll20, above VTT, all virtual tabletop options. Maybe you want to print it, or you want a video loop of the map to use on a TV tabletop or projector tabletop in your home. Essentially, Dungeon Alchemist allows you to build maps for tabletop RPGs. Primarily set in a fantasy aesthetic, also leans into some steampunk, early Western, kind of Victorian as well. Hope that answers your questions. By the way, welcome to the stream and hope you're having a wonderful day. Nice, fantastic. I'm glad I answered your question. Do you play D&D or Pathfinder or anything like that? We often get people who see our map making tool and want to use it for other things, you know, because map making in itself is a fun activity. Many people treat it like kind of like Sims meets Baldur's Gate, where you can just make maps and really don't need them for anything. But if you're looking to get into D&D, it's a very powerful tool. If you want to be a DM in particular, the dungeon master of the D&D campaign, because then you can build the maps for your campaign, which having a visual tool to represent, you know, spaces where your players can explore and find loot and battle bad guys, always great is a storytelling mechanic. There are some purists out there that prefer, you know, theater of the mind, where it's all imaginary. But as we've, you know, aged and learned a lot more as we've grown, you know, as humans in the last 60 years, we've learned that not everyone can imagine everything with their mind's eye. Some people are more like an auditory learner. Some people are visual learners. Some people are hands-on. Having a visual representation that they can look at gives them a great kind of segue into that imaginary world where they can interact with it. Essentially, the maps export in a top-down interface like this, and you can, you know, add a grid through your gameplay tool, and your players can explore this environment. Pretty fun. Pride and the Prejudice. Tarrasques. That's hilarious, Jack. Pride and Prejudice and Tarrasques. I think this map is nearing completion, but I want to add some more finishing touches. I'm open to suggestions. If you have any ideas of how I can make this feel more worn and aged, let me know. We've added, you know, past excavations, broken down exteriors, growth, overgrowth, etc. Lots of rubble and detritus. I'm thinking a little bit more on the roof, though we do have a lot of growth on this side and a hole in the roof. What are y'all thinking? Open to feedback here. You don't see dead people here. There's a pile of bones, several skulls. Let's go down the floor. There's a dead person. It's kind of trying to keep the flora inside to a minimal because there's not as much light inside. Well, it's an abandoned temple that now I'm assuming people are like using to do some kind of nefarious ritual. I imagine in my head that this temple lays on like ley lines where there's intersecting dimensions. So it's like a great place to summon some kind of evil creature. But that's just my imagination. We have added also like some fish. There's a few gators. Crocs, I guess you could say. But there is some wildlife throughout the map. I was thinking of adding some birds. I think that was some discussion last time. Hey, Pike, how you doing? Welcome back. Well, let's look up some birds. Bird. That's too large. Or my most recent. Mallard. Rev. What you need is just like a really cool mobile rig, right? Yeah, we looked at snakes and there wasn't many options. So it was like, I definitely want to add some birds though, but I'm also noticing not a whole lot of options on the workshop. How about that? Hey, Anita, how you doing? I'm good. How about yourself? Sorry, I should have answered your question first. I guess we can search anaconda. Nothing. Snake. I don't know no one named Snakes. We could use this constrictor. Oh, that's big for an STL, especially. Goodness. Happy holidays to you too, Anita. Hope you're well. Oh, you're good, I see. Good. Oh my goodness. I need to remove these from the workshop. That's predatory. 161 megabytes. Ooh. Ooh. That's a monster for that little guy. Some of, like, if you see a model that is over 25 megabytes, be wary when you download it. Let's try a few snake names, see what we can come up with. Python? You know what? We need some snakes on the workshop. I think that's set by Steam, to be honest with you. Hippo. Let's see if there's one. Infected hippo. Nope. What's the deal with the verification on Twitch? What do you mean? Can you elaborate, Run the DM? I would love to answer your question, but I'm not sure what you mean by the verification there. By the way, we are running live on multiple platforms, okay? So we're live streaming, multi-streaming on Twitch, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Steam all simultaneously. Tried to comment and you have to be verified. That might be a Twitch end thing, my friend. That's nothing I have done. We have plenty of people chatting. Twitch does set, nowadays they've set up like account verification where it has to be tied to like a phone number or something, because they had too many people making, you know, extra accounts and harassing and trolling people. It could be an age verification thing. Yeah, any number of things. It's nothing I'm doing. If anything, it's just Twitch. But every site has different stuff that it does like that. Some more than others, I'm afraid. How's everyone's holiday been so far? And are you excited for the new year? I always enjoy me a new year. Honestly, it definitely wasn't me doing that to you. We have plenty of people in our Twitch chatting right now. I'm assuming, how long have you had an account on Twitch? Is it relatively new? I'm really sorry you're going through that. Year or so. I imagine it's something on Twitch's end where they need you to fully verify your account with either a phone number or email verification or something. That said, I'm going to just double check to make sure I don't have anything configured that way. I think it's email verification is something that definitely needs to be done. Phone verification is off for ours, and follower only mode is off for ours. So it definitely isn't anything like that. Yep, Pop. What's up? How you doing, Dr. Lion? I'm good, Arthritic. How are you? Just looking at our Steam or our stream settings to make sure I wasn't restricting anyone from chatting. We've had some issues with people today chatting, so I wanted to make sure we were good. Honestly, I'm feeling like this map is approaching its conclusion. I feel like it's mostly done. I want to add a few more finer details to the surrounding map to make it feel more alive. But what do y'all think of the temple ruins thus far? Unfortunately, Pike, at this moment, there is no lock feature for Dungeon Alchemist objects. It is a heavily requested feature, though, that many community members have asked for. It's been requested on our our suggestion board and roadmap. And I'll be honest with you, I would love to see that feature enabled. Let's take a look at this at several times a day, making sure the lighting is good, right? And that it looks really overgrown and worn. I feel like I need some not vines, but plant life on this side here. Kind of like these. Spanish moss is nice, actually. It really fits in well. See you, Spencer. Enjoy that lurk, my friend. But I'm thinking we'll be uploading this to the workshop today, so y'all can enjoy it and maybe use it in your campaigns. I'd be honored. Sounds like you did a lot of polymorphing to that character. Well, the wear part, you got bit by something, right? Okay. I think I'm going to just add a little bit of life around the map, fish and the like, in various areas. Run amok, why you booing? No, why would you boo me? That's sad. Oh, you're working now? That's why? It's because you can't hang out? Hey, what's up, Cal? How you doing? It's very cool. Thank you for the compliment. We've been working on it for a few hours, spread across the last couple Mondays on stream. I think it's pretty much done. We're just doing some last minute checks and making sure everything looks good. Let's go down to the base floor here. We've got 2 creepy idols. Let's remove this one for something else. What could we put on that? Let's look at magic items. Skeletal crown? What do you think? Or maybe like a wand? Blue Mage, you know, you could potentially upload them. Remember, the workshop is entirely community driven. So when you find there's a lack of something, maybe it might be time for you to learn how to use the asset importer. Just giving you a little nudge in that direction. Hey, see you later, Pike. Thank you for being here, my friend. I'm trying to decide what kind of item to put on this. Let's put a couple of bone items, a bone crown and a bone scepter, as you know. You know, that'd be really cool. We were looking for a snake asset on the Steam Workshop because our community uploads assets and there's over 12,000 of them, but there's not any snakes that are like a reasonable size and quality. So we've kind of opted to avoid snakes for now. So, Cow, do you play D&D by chance or Pathfinder, something like that? Oh, excuse me. I like how it's just in the middle of nowhere. It looks good. Valixion, how you doing? Welcome. Or is it Valley Xeon? That's a good question, Anani. Anani's over here asking the real truths questions. Okay, so we've got overgrowth on the front and the sides, the top. We've got collapsed areas. I think it's looking pretty good. I think I'm going to send it. I think we'll upload this to the workshop as is. Let me save twice just to be safe. Actually, triples is best. Triples is safe. Now that we've saved it thrice, I am thinking we'll upload it to the workshop. So I'm going to publish the map. I want to take a custom picture, and I think I'm going to do it at night. So we're going to set the time of day to night before we publish. What do you think? Is that a pretty good shot? You know, you don't have to use Blender per se to 3D model. There's plenty of other tools out there. Looks great. Thank you, Artful Darkness, and thank you for sharing the live. Yeah, Tinkercad is a great tool to start learning on. Not only is it web-based, so it uses your your internet connection instead of your computer's power to render a 3D model, which not every computer can handle it really well, you know. The tool is rather simplistic. I use it here and there and I enjoy it. I'm going to think of a description. These temple ruins are rumored to be built upon dimensional ley lines. Where the barriers between dimensions are the thinnest. Are thin and permeable. Hey, Matto, how you doing? Welcome, welcome. So I'm describing these temple ruins that we're going to upload to the workshop for everyone to utilize. So let's see. It's rumored that an ancient cult used this site to summon what? An ancient demon of vast power. Kai here, how you doing? Spider Queen. Fine, fine. Thanks. Glad to hear it, Matto. Welcome to the stream. Lost or destroyed. Almost as if there was a cataclysm. Tadpoles of terror. Felixion, you're pretty funny. You know, we do have some frogs. What? Why did the Twitch stream just end? The heck? So weird. It says I was suspended, but then there's no message as to why. There's no information, no nothing. So weird. TikTok crashed. And it's funny, my account's still there. It's not like anything's wrong. I can still use Streamlabs, so I don't know what's wrong with this. It's really weird. I've got to reach out to Streamlabs over this because our account's fine. I'm still live on every other platform. So if there was a problem, why? You know what I mean? I do think that something is like a bug or something because we're not doing anything incorrect. Anything worthy of a ban, let's just say that. Huh, I'm sorry to our TikTok viewers. So weird. I took a screenshot of the thing, but I'm looking at my Streamlabs account. No notifications that this is a problem. And no indication that there's been an account issue on either platform. It makes little sense at the moment. I just get this random message and then the stream crashes. But then when I look at my restrictions or bans or anything like that, still fine. None. So that leads me to believe something's like a false positive or something. What the hell am I doing wrong? Thanks, Bane, for making me smile. Honestly, I'm not sure what's going on. It's only went dark on TikTok. It says it's a Streamlabs issue, but when I look at my Streamlabs, there's no notifications or anything. And if it was an issue, wouldn't it crash on all our streams? Because Streamlabs is what I feed the streams through. It makes no sense. Either way, at least we're not dealing with technical issues today. It was far worse the last stream where my HDMI cable just decided to crap out. I'm glad we sorted it before the end of the stream, though. Yeah, TikTok has been purchased by a large, let's just say, group of corporate entities with interest in it, and or been like the US portion of it, at least, to a large entity that, yeah, I mean, ultimately wants to control and like make sure that we only see what they want us to see. TikTok scared the crap out of a lot of older people because it was like a place to get up to the minute news and information. Granted, it's full of misinformation and BS and trolls, but there are some good actors out there that are providing up to the minute information that they didn't agree with, per se. And I don't want to get into it too much, but I think TikTok is not necessarily a reliable source anymore. I don't know. A lot of these social media sites will pop up and they become an interesting new feed of information, right? And I on occasion will liken them to like a news source. Not saying that the information there I take with 100% like it's factual, but I say a big but, there are instances of information news being broken on social media far before mainstream media. Many, many instances. I will just say in the past like 3-4 years, I've heard of breaking stories on TikTok far before they were on mainstream media. There are some accounts on these streams. I mean, there's even news feeds and corporate accounts That's like saying the information from those accounts can't be trusted or from our accounts can't be trusted. There are definitely sources on these sites that can be trusted to a degree. Now, that being said, TikTok is back? What? I'm not seeing it. Yeah, I'm not seeing it at all. We're live on Twitch, but the TikTok feed is definitely dead. Weird. It's the same for me, Atlam. Let's just upload this. I can change the description later. Let's pick a new theme for next week's stream. What do y'all say? Or I guess we could start on it today. Would anyone like to help me pick a new map idea? So we'll start working on that map today, at least get the environment and layout down. The temple map, the temple ruins, is now available on the workshop for anyone who wants to check it out. Do something modern. Was there something you had in mind, Frau? Something with a buttress. Stargazer was still an idea I'd love to see. What do you mean by that? Like a observatory, Anani? Had to think of what the word was for a moment. So we just made some temple ruins. I would love to make them next. Obviously, the next map should be small and something we can make in, say, 4 to 5 streams tops, maybe 3 to 5 streams tops. We work on those, streams every Monday for about an hour, a half hour to an hour, depending on, community questions and other things that happen on stream. Huh. I think Frau, unfortunately, I'll have to decline that because I want to try and keep the maps to a minimal of workshop related assets. And that's nothing against you there. I understand why you want that. That's a great idea to build a modern map. But I'm also trying to keep it like short, simple. And if I have to download hundreds of assets and put everything in by hand, the maps will likely take longer. Does that make sense? I've been urged to start doing Mapmaker Monday streams that can resolve the entire build within like 3 to 5 streams. So I feel like if I'm doing everything by hand and picking assets by hand on the workshop, I'm going to be spending tremendous amount of time building that map, and it'll take, several months of streams. I apologize. You know, I think it's a great suggestion. I just think going forward, Mapmaker Monday is going to be a little bit more smaller builds, not quite as wide or vast in scope as we used to do. That being said, you know, I'm still open to any suggestions you might have. Volcano eruption zone sounds interesting. So something with lava. Okay. An observatory with lots of mini islands over a void. So you're saying like floating vast land masses over a void, with one of them being an observatory? Kind of like islands in the void? Hmm. It sounds interesting. Something in the skeletal plains or from the Nine Hells. What if we did a skeletal plains volcano? Or no, I like that idea so far. Huh. Rattle the bones. Hell barbecue. Funny, funny. Underground complex. What kind of underground complex are we talking about? Volcano with giant skeletal arm reaching up from crater. Oh my goodness. Evil lair. Evil lair in a volcano. That's like such a stereotypical evil lair. Did you give me something different? I'm just kidding. Hellscape with blackjack and lava. Small island in the middle of the water with just an open grave going down into a dungeon. Interesting. You know what? That sounds really interesting. But also, it feels like it'd be done so quick. Something I was feeling like doing was like an outfitter shop. So it'd be like a storefront with like a whole bunch of stuff in it. I do like the idea of a volcano map, though. We definitely could use some more volcano maps. Trade, not necessarily a trade depot, more like an outfitter shop that would have like adventurer's gear. A blacksmith in a volcano sounds dope. I'm not gonna lie, Seisu, you might have hit some gold with that. A forge in a volcano sounds dope. Merchant, one who trades. Either or. So what I'm leaning towards, these are both good ideas. A foundry in a volcano. So a lava forge, right? Or an outfitter's like a trade deep shop, like probably on some crossroads in the woods, right? A foundry, why not an owlbear? Why not, why not an above? Underwater biodome with brinicles reaching down and leaving frost on the outside dome. Interesting. So like a water map that's based in kind of a snow biome. I know they are. Oh, there's so many suggestions. I might just have to pick one. I don't think it's going to be a vote per se. I'm just going to go with one I feel like the vibe is the best. A forge in a volcano is appealing. Rev is correct. We do have a whole campaign module from all these suggestions. Y'all are great. I do appreciate map making with you. It's so fun because it's like hundreds of thousands of years of collaborative DMing experience working together. So if I do the volcano forge, it'll likely be a cave where it's an underground kind of foundry that uses the lava leach off of, you know, like an offshoot of the volcano. Lizzie feels very strongly about ambush maps. I don't blame her. I mean, ambush maps are very critical when it comes to campaigns, right? I need to refresh my multi-stream chat. It is frozen. There we go. We got to keep it family friendly here, Valexion. Ka as a snake would be great on the map. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any snakes that were like a good download size. Hey, Asmodeus, if you have some time in like, you know, your holiday season going into the new year and thereafter, maybe you could find a few or, you know, design some snakes to upload to the workshop that are rather small in download size. Most of them on there are huge, just not optimal. Some like an STL snake or two and some other ones that are just kind of cool and moving or, you know, whatever. You know, I've actually done like the insides of a massive beast as a map before, Valixion. Would you like to see it while we're talking about other ideas? So, some time ago, I made a map that was like the insides of really anything you want it to be. Belly of the Beast is what I called it, but it could be the inside of a snake or, you know, any sort of Goliath creature, right? Forgotten Death, how you doing? So this is essentially like the esophagus, right? And then here you get down into the stomach. Then you scroll down a little bit. By the way, if you look in here, it's like very like gross skin, bones, just all sorts of grossness, bile, acid. Then we get into the small intestines and the large intestines. And of course, you know, the exit we all don't want. Anyway. Hey, Highland Lass, how are you? I built this map on a challenge from our community to build something like this with, you know, the biomes and options we have available. I feel like I did a pretty good job. It's an exit sign of the workshop. No thanks. Anyway, I find this map to be kind of a interesting design for, you know, like your players maybe have to rescue someone that was eaten by some kind of Titan-sized creature, right? Or maybe the players were all eaten by it. Giant bird carrying a small castle? Dang, that sounds like some Golden Axe stuff. Honestly, that would be possible, but it would require some trick, like workarounds. You would essentially have to have a bird object that you overscale and move under the castle that you build. So you'd build your castle up and then you just place the bird under it. People have done similar things with like turtle islands and the like. I don't think I've ever seen a bird castle though. But essentially this is an image of a turtle and they just have an island map that they built. And then they put that image inside of the island to make it look like it's one piece. In its talons? Dang, I don't know if that'd be possible. On top of it would be a lot easier than in its talons, especially when you're doing a top-down map. That being said, I wouldn't say it's impossible, it'd just be tricky. Okay, so everyone, we've talked about maps. I think the Volcano Forge seemed to get the most like positive feedback. And I feel like that's where we should lean to, you know, make our next map. The wizard tower with the eyes and chicken legs. That was such a random build, too. We were just testing what the next update could do. Y'all were like, make a floating tower. I'm like, okay, I'll make a floating tower. Add eyes to it. Legs. Yeah, I'm going to make a volcano forge. I think what I'll do is I'll make it inside of a cave biome. And we could add like a river and then we'll make it lava. Send in the walking bastion, right? So what I was thinking of doing is having the forge inside of like a fissure of the volcano, which we would do inside here. I'm assuming all the like features we add in the water world update will apply to all liquids. Should I make this in the skeletal plains biome so it's all bones and char as the like rocks? If you start in the cave biome, yes, it's all encapsulated within an underground system, which is typically how caves work. You can keep going down, but you cannot go up. That being said, if you start in like a traditional biome, right? Like a forest biome, you can make caves below the top level in a traditional biome, but it is a little bit more work. If you had to make an isekai plot for D&D, how would you start it? I mean, I'm pretty sure they pretty much did that with like Delicious in Dungeon. It's essentially an isekai. They don't claim it's an isekai, but it could be, where you essentially are in this world where you have to clear dungeons and find loot and level up. I'm trying to decide how to start this map. Let me think on this for a moment. I need to ponder. The prize is actually Anubis. Dang. So, I think I'll start in Skeletal Plains just to appease the masses here. Vegetation is just bones. A board game with drums, Jumanji. A place for those that seek to find a way to leave their world behind. Was I the only kid that wanted to get into Jumanji? You would isekai people into a campaign by doing a Jumanji? Yep, bones are vegetables. Gonna generate a few maps. We'll see what it looks like. Don't really like these bone spires. They're not my favorite. Honestly, like, I feel like the whole isekai genre has been beat to death. It's like the horse that's been beat to death 50,000 times. It's almost like Bruce Wayne and Peter Parker's intros in their movies. Like, we know Uncle Ben died, and that's why Spider-Man became Spider-Man. And we know Bruce Wayne's parents died, and the pearls falling on the ground. I've seen that scene like 50,000 times in a bunch of different movies. I guess what I'm getting at is maybe if we were to do like a D&D anime or a D&D based campaign where you were isekai'd, I would say it's probably just best to lean in on what you're already doing. The story already does it for you. You're a bunch of players who were friends playing a game, and all of a sudden you're in this fantasy world playing through your avatars, your characters, your player characters. However, when the DM says the session's over, you're brought back to the real world. So you can leave, you can log out, but during that time, it's terrifying and it's real. That might be an interesting way. Wait, you were playing Monopoly with Donkey Kong bongos? See, I would definitely wouldn't make it a harem anime. There's too many of those, and they're creepy. weird to watch those with my family. Like, I don't like watching them. How you doing, Squirrel? Getting rid of all these bone spires because this isn't the Conan universe. Yeah, Sword Art Online definitely started very promising and got really silly as it progressed. I definitely preferred it when they were in SAO and not in the hundreds of games after. There's an SAO abridged? Did not know that. Interesting. Upset Squirrel, this is called Dungeon Alchemist. It's a map making tool that's available on Steam, and it allows you to build maps for your tabletop campaigns, primarily like D&D or Pathfinder. You can build maps set in a fantasy aesthetic in a variety of different biomes. Today, we're going to be tackling potentially a volcanic forge. We were building a temple ruins earlier and wrapped up the work on that. And we uploaded it to the workshop, Steam Workshop integration for these maps as well. So you can share them, with others in our community. Let's see here. Where is my map? I could have sworn I shared it earlier. Honestly, I do think Delicious in Dungeon literally could be rebranded as an isekai like that. They just, basically have the premise and just could throw people into it. Am I crazy? I don't see my map. Could have sworn I uploaded it earlier. Did I not? I swear, I don't see my map. I'm tripping out. Oh, man. So that might make him, a little bit not a fan of Tony. So he may not lean towards the Avengers or may even be a villain. Well, if I published it private on accident, Frau wouldn't be able to see it, and I would still be able to see it. I'm not seeing it in my list. It's weird. Yeah, it's probably just up on Browse under most recent, and that's it. It's there. Oh, there it is, right there. Never mind. I see it. I'm just dumb. Not sure if I feel this biome. Let's put some lava in it and see what it's like. Maybe it'd work. Isn't it weird how Batman's like, I don't kill, but I have no problem crippling people for life? I think my canon for this, my head canon for the skeletal plains being the biome, is the fires of the furnace burn much hotter and make much more like brilliant and amazing blades because of all the carbon from the bones in the like soil. So they essentially make like much stronger, more resilient, sharper blades. The decal tool will allow you to paint like gold and stuff. You just got to import like a gold texture, image, whatever. Seems hard to find a path as is. How do you quality assurance test that? I'm sorry, Upset Squirrel, did you say something earlier that I missed? I want to make sure I didn't. This seems like the later half of a conversation. One moment. Hey, Roll Monster, how you doing? The decal tool should be in Fun with Objects Part 2, as far as I know. Man, I was so happy for that company, Claire, the developers of Claire Obscure, and then all this controversy came out around them using Gen AI. Don't know what to think anymore. Okay, so I think I'm going to call this map the Bone Forge. Clearly it's set in like the heart of a volcano, in a fissure of a volcano, but this is an ancient battle site. You know, you say that, Mondu, but a lot of my job is customer facing, right? Where I deal with our community and their feedback and their comments and reviews. And we, for instance, get a lot of flack just for using AI as a description of our tool, meaning it uses procedural AI to generate maps. We've dialed back our usage of AI and all our branding and kind of minimalized it because it's such a hot topic, a hot button term. And by that, I mean almost weekly, we get people, almost up in arms, angry with us because they assume we use generative AI in our development. We don't. At no point was any generative AI used in Dungeon Alchemist development. We developed our own procedural AI in house, which is nothing like a generative AI. If anything, it's a last gen dumb AI. Doesn't use any servers or destroy the environment by using excess water or make your computers cost more by buying up all the GPUs and RAM. Okay, it's nothing like that. And it doesn't steal your art or any of your maps or data to generate maps. It's developed in-house by our team of developers who at no point use any public data or assets or art or maps to train the generation AI that makes rooms, that makes environments. So while it does generate environments, it's not a generative AI. It is a last gen dumb AI that is nothing like those modern ones. And we constantly still get people who assume and leap to conclusions that we are, like Chat GPT or whatever. Exactly, Rev. Exactly, Bane. It is a misunderstanding. And I think a lot of people are kind of just very eager to say, hey, you're doing something wrong without actually understanding it at all. So I from a community standpoint, deal with it constantly. Even now, after all we've done to separate ourselves from generative AI and educate our community over it, it's still something I run into. So, yeah. Okay, so what I'm thinking is we'll put like a mountain range in this area, right? And then it'll be kind of the entry point, and then it'll go underground. Jeez, Rev, I'm sorry. It is a loaded term nowadays. For sure. I think a lot of people just see AI and immediately get defensive and upset. The most I use AI nowadays is to like proofread my work because I work alone as our community manager. So, like, I'll write up a lot of copy and I'll run it through, something to get like a proofread read version of it for punctuation and grammar and stuff. And even then, I'll still adjust it again. That's how minimal I use it. To be honest, at this point, I'd almost welcome Skynet. No, that's a good point, Highland Lass. It really does make sense to properly credit, your sources, and We were taught that in school, but it doesn't seem to be much of a common practice anymore. At least I was taught that in school. Trying to make like a volcano top here. By the way, sorry if I'm just like rambling at this point. So this is that same bone kind of thing, but it's charred. But yeah, quite literally, D&D does that already. Like, I mean, how many monsters are from like other literature and like stories and stuff? There's only like a handful of monsters in the D&D like ecosystem that are original. It'd also be funny if the AI singularity just argues with itself all the time. The bunch of AIs just arguing with each other. Hey, Finn. Well, we're starting a new map today. Just started it, actually. And we're going to be building basically a volcano forge, a lava forge. To do that, though, I'm starting the map in this hellscape environment. We went with the skeletal plains biome. I like the paint options it offers, and we're going to canonically kind of explain this place as a, very toxic environment, but also there is a forge that was built deep in a fissure of a volcano. And the lava burns so extremely hot here, and because there's so much like bone mass carbon mixed in with it, it makes like the most terrifically strong and like amazingly sharp blades. I mean, if it's all trained on the internet, eventually it'll come full circle. Like, but yeah, we were talking a little bit about AI as you wandered in. So sorry if we jumped topic there and just kind of went back into it. But at the moment, I'm kind of painting the environment to make the top of what will be the volcano source. And then we'll make an underground kind of cavern that's like a cave system where we make the forge. But I would like to think that like this forge, when you because there was so many massive battles fought, there was like a massive cataclysmic battle fought here, and that's what started this volcano, right? And as you could see, tons of bodies just all over, bones as far as the eye can see. But due to the unique nature of its creation and the massive amount of carbon deposits, then this forge is unique in that it'll allow you to, make Damascus style blades that are incredibly strong and resilient. I like where we're going with this idea so far. Does anyone have any ideas to add to this canon? I always try to develop the story canon as we go for the environment. Oh, it's not Mordor. Recipes, and I'm sure some of your favorite restaurants are already starting to do like their menus and graphics using that stuff. Oh my gosh, the millennial hill I'll die on, and I'm so glad I don't really go to restaurants anymore for this reason, is that menus are now like QR codes. Give me a friggin' menu to read. Part of the experience is like showing people the menu and talking about your items and what you're going to pick. Not to mention, okay, I shouldn't be required to bring my phone to dinner to look at a menu or my tablet. And they usually are awful websites that aren't like really optimized for, mobile devices. Thank you, Seisu. I'm glad you agree. We agree on something for once. Oh, that's cool, Fin Fam. So you're doing an ice dungeon? Pretty much, yeah, if you switched over to like the snow biome, right? You could make ice looking like walls and like caverns that look so beautiful. That too, it is a security risk. Hey, Philly, how you doing? I do not like that a QR code could be replaced on there. Ugh. My missus and I were just talking about this the other day. There's like QR codes all over stuff, right? Everywhere. Like the potatoes we got, like like it's like the potato mix for making mashed potatoes. If you want some speedy mashed potatoes. On the side, there was like a bunch of like ideas for recipes, and they'd show these brilliant looking foods, but then not give you the recipe. And they're like, scan this QR code to go check out the recipes. And anyone could go into the store with some sticker QR codes and just put them there, have it maliciously go through something and steal your data or whatever. I hate how QR codes are just everywhere now. I loved them when they were like first out. Fun little novelty. Now they're used everywhere and it drives me nuts. Tiny URLs. Yeah, I understand why you're shrinking URLs, because nowadays URLs get crazy, right? Have you seen those websites that can unshrink a URL so you could tell exactly where it goes? So you like just copy the like tiny URL and post it there? Easy to rickroll people with QR codes and tiny URLs, for sure. They used to be so like positive in their purpose and intent, but now they're just straight up malicious. Like, isn't it crazy how like they went from being this thing people like to nope, don't like them anymore. So I think I was going to play with these lava statues a bit. I'm going to disable the collisions and maybe like sink it down in so it's like pouring some lava. It kind of gives off like just some crazy vibes. For sure. Oh my gosh, I read a story recently too. Actually, at a wedding, some ladies like QR codes for their Venmo. Someone replaced it with a different code halfway through the wedding. It was her brother. And her brother stole like over 20 grand from her and her husband. People were like donating like crazy to them, and it was going to his account. FinFam, that's a really good question. And honestly, it's really dependent on your computer specs. The more intricate and powerful and modern your machine, probably the more insane of a map build you can build with multiple levels. We, when we rolled out Dungeon Alchemist, it was designed around a single level map, right? But then with time, our community wanted, multi-level and wanted roofing and things like that. So we added that in our most recent major update, Fun with Objects Part 1 in July. And when we did that, essentially when you have a multi-level map, think of it like a cake, right? You got layers to a cake, the base layer, then another layer, another layer, another layer. And it starts getting really complex when you have all these layers stacked on top of each other. And it's like having 5-6 versions of a map stacked together, right? It can put a burden on your machine if you've got lots of animations, lots of intricate lighting and details, and a multi-story map. So it's best to be wary. You know what I mean? When you're building a massive a map that's multi-story, even if it's 40 by 40, if it's 10 levels high, that's actually 10 by 40 by 40, right? So if all those are visible, that is going to put a massive burden on your machine. Zach the Nebula bought the program. What's a good way to make dungeons but not caves? Zach, can you elaborate on what kind of dungeon you want to build? The Lexion, I grew up in a home of people that didn't understand technology. I was the one who understood it. So I'd always be like fixing things, setting up things. I get calls about tech support for years after I moved out. And finally, I just started saying, I haven't paid attention to this stuff for years. I haven't worked at this place for so long. I used to work at a Best Buy. And so I use that as an excuse. Like I don't stay up to date with this stuff. So I don't really know anymore. So maybe it's probably a good idea to call someone else or ask someone else who knows, because I was just doing this tech support thing constantly for everyone in my family who would never call me to say hi unless it was for that. So I kind of stopped doing that. But that being said, like in this family, my mom always used to say, hey, the internet's dangerous. Watch out for, scary people on there, or, oh, don't trust everything you see on TV and blah, blah, blah. But now my mom's the one sending me like AI memes and being like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. This happened. And it's not real, and I have to explain to her delicately, Mom, that is AI. That's not real. And it's frustrating to me because AI is also getting to the point where I'll have to like sit and stare at it for a minute to make sure it's real or not. And I understand how they get duped so easy because, like, I don't know. They grew up in a world when like everything you saw in the news was factual, right? Now news doesn't have to be factual. And like validate it and backed with sources and stuff like that. So it's a different world. And then everything on the internet is taken like it's real at face value without like any second thought. My grandmother sent me some AI like Christmas greetings. One was like of like a like someone wrote happy holidays in stones on the beach. And I'm like, geez, grandma, these AI images are getting really good nowadays, aren't they? Just to say it nicely and softly, not be like, oh, grandma, this is AI. And she's like, wait, these are AI? And I'm like, yeah, they definitely are. Like, it's crazy, but there were laws in the United States changed several years ago, like 20, 30 years ago, where news sites, they are now entertainment companies instead. And so they don't have to provide factual news in the United States. There are a few that still are and have to provide factual news with sources and information, but some of them aren't. It's crazy. It drives me nuts. I like this upper area here, but I think we need to go into the underground. So what I was going to do is kind of raise this up and make a cavern, like an opening, so we could pretend like it goes under. Okay, Zach, I understand what you're trying to do. One moment. So what I would recommend, honestly, when I'm building a dungeon map that really has no exterior, when you're focusing on an interior space, and you don't really need caves, you said, you just need walls, right? So you could use the dark parchment biome, right? Hold on, let me save this one more time and I'll generate one for you. Saving triplicates. Triples is best. So start with a digital map, pick a size that your computer can handle, and then dark parchment. So now that I'm in this biome is ideal for just showcasing interior spaces, i.e. dungeons, etc. You can use the crypt, castle, abandoned ruins. They're all relatively good for generating, dungeon type environments. So what you can do, drag you out a room, generate it, a hallway attached, maybe a hallway veering off of that one, generate it. And essentially, because, this is meant to be an interior space, you can also disable windows from generating, so it's less likely to generate any. And now you have what's essentially an interior underground space or a dungeon type space. Yeah, this environment, there's tons of biomes, right? When you generate your maps. This particular one is ideal for just focusing on the interior, which in your case is a dungeon, right? If they're never really supposed to see outside of these walls, then this biome is perfect for that. You could use the cave biome too, because you could still make rooms in it, and then you can mix and match between like cave tunnels that are rock formations or carved into rock, or, mixtures of rooms with the tunnels. So it's this one here is just a focus on the rooms and their interior spaces. If you use the cave biome, if you set it to solid rock, let's turn off vegetation and lights. So you can carve caves using the cave carving tools, or you can draw rooms as well. You can draw rooms without walls, with walls. Using the settings tool, you can go in here and say, I don't want it to generate with objects, or I don't want it to generate with lights, or I just want walls and floors and doors, and that's it, right? And then you pick the room type you want to use, and then start generating rooms. You can rotate these rooms if you want, or leave them on the exact axis they started. It'll generate a space, which then you could have tied in with regular caves that are mix and match. And let's say, you're looking at this, you're like, man, this cave looks a little seamed around the edge. You can grab the terrain tool, go to raise caves, and just bring it in nice and tight to the edge there, right? So you can have a mix and match of like really structured, carved out walls that are stone, or stone, like actual carved, like tunnels mixed in with it as well. So you could just have like a door here, right? Whatever. You get the idea. And then it leads into a tunnel. Another one of my favorite things to do is when I'm building dungeons like this in the cave biome, you can keep drawing rooms, right? And hallways and whatever off of the main section. But you can also use that terrain carving thing I told you about to like raise it in nice and seamed to the walls, right? Once you do this, just delete this room. This is really cool. Delete the room, right? And now it's like a really nice carved into the rock space that's using the natural formation, but carved into it. So you can kind of do a mixture of all three. Use the terrain carving tools to make like natural tunnels, use the room drawing tools to make, you know, dungeon rooms, and or delete the rooms after to have like really cool carved rock, you know, hallways. If I had to pick a biome as my favorite and the one I'm like the best at, it is the cave biome. I know it in and out. I know all its tricks, all its secrets. You know, when you talk about lava slugs, it kind of reminds me of a short story by Orson Scott Card that was later adapted into the, what was it called? Into the Ender's Game kind of like saga. But it's basically he wrote a short story about these like bugs that were essentially they would like dig through the rock and look for gold. And they mined out, they were like genetically engineered to do that, right? So they like mine gold. But once they mined it all out, they were like left abandoned there. And the bug would like crawl around searching for gold, and it would only get so far before it'd starve. And before it starve, it generate some offspring. And then the generation of offspring after it would just get a little bit smaller and go a little bit further, trying to look for gold. And then it would generate offspring and die, and then it would just keep the cycle going until like later on it was discovered by humans, and it was tiny. It was like you know, hundreds of generations for the bug, probably only like more like 30 years for humans that had been doing this. Anyway, did this answer your question though about yeah, you can have a broken wall. Also, by the way, this roof, it's not necessarily set in stone. We can make it, you know, just flat. But let's say you wanted this to feel like it was broken out. You would find a broken ruins wall, right? We'll just delete this. There's also some doors that are broken, so you could just go with like that. Like that one looks like it's been torn through, right? Or there are some broken, ruined ones that also add that same aesthetic already. That said, we have some wall types, if you look in here. Ruins. Not all of them match every wall type, but you may find a wall that you like, and you can just change the little sections of it. Does that make sense? Of course, you want to probably find a stone wall that matches the wall you're already using. This one's just the littlest bit off. But you get the idea. There's quite a few broken ones available. Wood, charred wood, stone of all types. You know, in one of my campaigns, I had a DM who let me use familiars from like other modules, and there was a familiar called Gold Bug that was like a little bug that looked like a golden coin, and it could determine where gold is within your vicinity, so you could use it to like seek out treasure, but also you could leave it with like people as payment, pay it, and then it would just crawl away, or you could, you know, go into the eyes of the familiar and see where it's at, learn where their treasure was, and go steal it. my gold bug had blind sight, and so I would use it all the time as like a little spy. Rev, I can't speak to that for sure, but I'm sure with time we'll get more and more roofs. Another thing, at the end of the day, you could just delete a section. Let's get back to my build, though. The Bone Forge. Man, I have an obsession with D&D pets. So I'm a wizard, right? And I'm a halfling wizard, so I found I was always falling behind my party. So I bought we actually got the mount for free by helping a guy who was like, he ran like a mount store, right? Full of different mounts. And one of them broke out of a cage and was like attacking him, and we saved him, and he gave me my Mastiff mount for free. And so I rode the Mastiff around for a few sessions to stay caught up with my party until I could get spells to compensate. And then my dog Chance, he got to the point where he's too fragile and I don't want him to die, so we just leave him at home. He's like a guard dog. And then I have an owl familiar named Omen. I don't know if you're noticing the trend with the luck names. Chance, Omen. My character's name is Clover. I'm a luck-nomancer. But yeah, I would ride around on the Mastiff as a hobbit. It was pretty fun as a halfling. And it would allow me to stay caught up with the group, and then I'd jump off for battle. Anyway, oh yeah, by the way, this upcoming Saturday, put it in your calendar. We will have Wim on the stream Saturday the 3rd, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. UTC for an interview. We're going to start the stream up at that time, do a couple quick segments, about 5-10 minutes, intro segments and itinerary and news, and then we'll dive into our interview segment with Wim. Wim is, if you're not familiar, the creator of Dungeon Alchemist. It was his idea. And then he worked with Carl to develop Dungeon Alchemist. He's our lead artist and co-developer. So it is next year. You're going to have to wait till next year for this interview, unfortunately. But Wim will be here January the 3rd for roughly a half-hour, where you can ask him questions, get to know him, and he'll probably be sharing some cool stuff. Very excited to have Wim on the stream. Always a treat. And yeah, Wim tends to like to leak stuff. So if you want to see some up and coming stuff in our development, you may want to attend, because Wim will likely, share it. He'll make it happen. You know what I mean? But so Wim will be here this upcoming Saturday. So please, if you can attend, would love to have you. Even if you can only be here for a little bit, still very fun to, get to know our dev team like this, ask them questions, and, just get their unique insight, because it really allows us to kind of peer behind the curtain, so to speak. Silk, is that your name? I want to make sure I said it right. Welcome to the stream. My name is Mac. I'm the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. Thank you for the kind words, and I'm so glad that Dungeon Alchemist is helping you with your DM workflow. Jeez, Valexion, no, I don't need that kind of trauma. What was it with like Hollywood wanting to traumatize kids for like between the 60s and the 90s? So how long you been using Dungeon Alchemist now? Silk, I'd love to hear your feedback. By the way, small favor to ask as the community manager to everyone here. If you have been using Dungeon Alchemist for a while, you enjoy it, you have feedback about it, maybe you don't enjoy it. We'd really love to get a review from you on Steam. I think more often than not, people will end up getting Dungeon Alchemist and forget to leave a review. Or they want to wait till they've used it a certain amount of time before they review it, which I understand. You want to get a good review of it, good idea of how it works. But if you find you have some time in your holiday end of the year and you're looking for a way to help out our community, a positive review on Steam can go a long way to help us out. Wow, well, thank you so much for continuing to use Dungeon Alchemist, for a year, and also for sharing it with your friends. Zach, I appreciate that. Honestly, I was just asking any and all because often people forget about it. I forget to review games I buy all the time, and so I'll go back and end up reviewing them later. There's a lot of devs out there deserve the good word, so to speak. So I'm going to shape this terrain a little bit and have a tunnel going into it, like into the ground here. I think I'm going to kind of flatten it out a little, lower it a little. There's like a path going through here. Bro, you're going to wait till 1,000 hours? Fair. I mean, do you really know the software otherwise, right? No, I like to get about, between anywhere from like 10 to 50 hours with a product before I leave a review. Either I like to beat the game if it's like a game that like a single player game, right? Or if it's a multiplayer game, I like to get a good amount of play in it, like play all the maps, check out all the classes and characters. That's just my personal preference. About to use some super glue. Be careful. Once you cracked 100 hours, nice, Soap. Hey, Zach, thank you for the review. Appreciate it. Honestly, like, I just got to remind people sometimes because people forget. And we have such a positive community here. We want to get your feedback. And also, if you have, information about Dungeon Alchemist that you're not happy with, a bug you experienced or anything, we'd like to know so we can help. So I think this is where I'm going to have the tunnel kind of going under, like into the ground. And what I'll probably do is use like the rock formation that we keep in here. Like one of these. We'll turn collisions off and we'll just make this a big old boy. Is there one that's like the lava looking rock? We could always use this one and make it a darker color. That looks a little bit better, I think. Let's do that one. So what I'll have is like this kind of entrance here. We'll make it fit up to it on the back side here in a moment. You came from Dungeon Draft. Nice, nice. Honestly, you know, Dungeon Draft is a great tool. I don't ever see it as a competitive product, more complementary than anything. They do have an amazing amount of resources at your disposal between, you know, the tool itself and all the third-party websites just packed with assets. Just keep in mind something you should know, Zach. Their asset library, all of the JPEG and PNG assets will work in Dungeon Alchemist just fine. You can actually import images into Dungeon Alchemist in a number of different ways. These abstract objects here, for instance, are a great example of that. You can import images of any kind. So let's say you wanted to make a magic circle. So if you have images, I know that they have a website that's like a repository just full of images, right? You can use those images in DA in a number of different ways, on walls, on floors, etc., to your advantage if you want. We also have a number of objects in Dungeon Alchemist that you can insert images into. Paintings, for example. There's a customizable rug, many wall signs and like built bulletin boards. So you could put like a little custom, you know, like a wanted sign for your group, or maybe a little like a quest or something, right? On top of this, we also have integration with the Steam Workshop to both share maps and share 3D models. We have the asset importer built into Dungeon Alchemist, which allows our community to import custom 3D models, which could be images or full 3D models. There's over, I think, 10,000 3D models available on the Steam Workshop right now and counting. Maybe closer to 12,000, yep. Some of these are just simple images, some of them are full 3D models. But you also can import custom assets using the asset importer. So you model in Blender, then you're already a step ahead. And we actually, someone in our community made a plugin for Blender that auto like rotates the asset to be on the right like axis. It will resize it to be more in line with our you know, usage in Dungeon Alchemist. And it also, I believe, what is the term they use, where it reduces the size and like reduces the faces, so it's a lot more small. BDA, that's it. Blender to DA add-on was created by one of our community members, and it's pretty solid. Yeah, it reduces the geometry and makes it a smaller file. Sorry, I'm not like super good at importing assets, but I do know people in our community are just absolutely astonishing at it. So I kind of defer to their judgment and expertise. So what I'm going to do, we're going to bring this up to this rock. Then we're going to use these abstracts that I just told you about to our advantage. Put this one right here. It's clever trickery here. Give me just one moment. I'm going to insert just a solid black image. I'm going to use that as like a recessed cave entrance. And I'll probably flatten that out a little bit more here. So, our next update will likely add the ability to rotate objects on any axis. The devs have been testing this out and working on it on the backside. They've been showing, you know, demos of it. We're getting pretty close to a point where it's like a solid product and ready to be released for update. But we don't have an ETA as of yet. Dungeon Alchemist is in constant development. Keep in mind, it's in early access, right? So there's quite a bit of major updates we have planned until we leave early access. 4.5 major updates to be precise. So the other half of Fun with Objects, which will include rotating objects on any axis. And then also, sorry, stand by. I'm trying to find some videos of this stuff so you can see it. In addition to that, we're also releasing the decal tool, which will allow you to insert like PNG images into Dungeon Alchemist and paint them as textures all over the map on surfaces, walls, ground, whatever. So Dungeon Alchemist was conceived as a Kickstarter, and the Kickstarter was very successful. We had a number of stretch goals that we planned and hit during the Kickstarter campaign, and those were all of our updates. So every time we release a major update, not just like a minor patch or a hot fix, it's usually tied to a stretch goal. So our last update, Fun with Objects, was actually so vast they split it into 2 parts because they didn't want people waiting till after the new year when they could release a portion of it in July last year. But our history of updates is available on our wiki that Atlam just shared a link to. And you could see the past updates and a lot of information about Dungeon Alchemist. Think of it as like a manual that we update, so like a living manual. We also have a Discord server where it's kind of the biggest grouping of our community. It's a great place to get support when the streams aren't live. So you can ask questions or get support there. You can, bounce ideas off of other DMs and GMs. You can just hang out. And there's also the latest and greatest news around Dungeon Alchemist is shared there first. So it's a good place to kind of hang out when, you have questions or concerns, or maybe you're struggling with an advanced building concept, whatever. Otherwise, though, the streams are a great resource. You can tune into the streams twice a week, every Monday and every Saturday. Monday is 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, or what is it? 5 p.m. UTC. It's a 2.5 hour stream. We build a map live for you to watch and follow along, share ideas, suggestions, feedback, and ask questions. So you get your questions and whatnot, concerns addressed in real time on the stream. Our other stream is on Saturday, which it is called the Dam Show, or the Dungeon Alchemist Map Making Show. And essentially it's a 2.5 hour variety show where during the streams we cover a variety of different segments. Our upcoming stream will feature an interview with the creator of Dungeon Alchemist and our lead developer, or one of our lead developers, Wim DeHare. We also feature other segments and the like where we showcase maps and assets from the workshop, features in Dungeon Alchemist, share the latest news and in our development, etc. Trying to make this less flat. I was going to raise some more of it, but I want to think of it as like a cavern that goes down. Granted, I probably could just make it as a cavern that goes down, but at the moment I'm mostly focused on shaping the terrain to make it feel natural and normal. By the way, we're about to wrap up our stream for the day. Hope you all enjoyed the stream and learned a lot. I appreciate you supporting us. To be honest, like as we're a small like indie company, you know, every like little bit helps. We're not some big megacorp, you know what I mean? So um often pirating from us is basically akin to, you know, stealing from like a small mom and pop shop. Now, I do appreciate that you have demoed DA and then purchased it, used the pirated copy as a demo, as opposed to, you know, just continuing that way. And I do understand, you know, around the world, currencies are, you know, different reflections of how much value they have. And sometimes things are way more expensive in other countries, like Dungeon Alchemist, I've been told, in some places is like the cost of a month's rent. And we actually adjusted our prices in several different regions to help with that. But there's only so much we can do on our end. You know what I mean? I wouldn't say it's stealing from grandma, but at the same time, you know, we are a small team of less than 10 people. We all have families. You know, we work really hard to make Dungeon Alchemist a reality. So I do appreciate it when someone who had Dungeon Alchemist, you know, that pirated it ended up purchasing it. It means a lot because, you know, at the end of the day, we are just a small little company against some Goliaths and whatnot out there. I've seen in some South American regions where it was like 2 months rent. So we adjusted, but also often, you know, we'll miss regions that we don't know, or currency changes in value drastically in some areas. We understand that in some regions, like your currency has been devalued and not hold as much weight as it used to, and there's a priority for things like your housing and food, right? Over, you know, map making for D&D. Yeah, the winter sale is also a plus. Having sales like that occasionally really does help our community. Oops. Is this starting to look kind of interesting as an entrance here? I think we're off to a good start for the Bone Forge. We at least have the upper layer started, and now we can get into the underground caverns, fissure, lava forge itself, right? I wanted the entrance to be strong and interesting, and I think I'm going to continue the path out to the edge, so there's like a path that, you know, leads to this point, albeit charred and, you know, mired and worn. Probably not very safe. Hey, DMs out there, I got to ask you a question. Have you ever heard of a player using the spell Shape Stone more like offensively or defensively even? Or Stone Shape, is that what it is? Maybe I said it backwards. It is a single action spell, so the magic happens in like the blink of an eye. And recently I saw the new Critical Role, you know, anime, whatever, Mighty Nine. And I'm pretty sure the wizard in that show was using Shape Stone like defensively and offensively. Well, it only shapes so much stone, right? The Stone Fist. What was that? What spell do you think that was? Because to me, I was like, man, is that shaped stone? It just grabs them and would hold them against the tree or the wall. It was used very defensively. Granted, in one instance, it was used to pin someone while he burned them alive. But I interpreted it as shaped stone because it could be shaped into a claw that could hold someone to the wall. But yes, this is true. But Scanlan's hand is just a rebranded Bigby's hand. It's just changing the name. In fact, in the DMG, it tells you can change the name and reflavor any spells. That's all Scanlan's hand is, right? Or did they change the parameters of the spell? Honestly, when I saw that in the show, me and my son were like, wait, which spell is that? That's interesting. I want to know. And oh man, I kind of want to use that spell that way. That being said, it's very situational. Like, very situational. Honestly, I've never watched any Critical Roles. Well, I've watched a couple because I wanted to try it out. Couldn't get into it. It felt way too, corporate and monetized and advertised, and I swear the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes of the stream was like 5 ads. Maybe I watched a couple bad ones. But to me, it just, I don't know. And I understand what they're doing and why. But also part of me just was like, oh, I can't enjoy this show now. My understanding of Scanlan's hand from the show is they took Bigby's hand and added Scanlan to it because he asked if he could make it custom to himself. And they said, yeah, you can. It's Earthen Grasp? Okay, cool. Good to know. I do feel like a lot of the content is staged and it just doesn't, like, it's scripted, and it's really hard to enjoy a D&D campaign that's scripted. If I wanted a scripted show, I'd watch their animes or watch, which I understand is based off of their real campaigns, but it has much more structure that way. They make adjustments to make the story flow. Alrighty, I think this is good for today. We're gonna call it. We're gonna wrap up the stream, and we'll work on the Bone Forge again next week, where we'll start into the underground fissure, where there will be a lava forge where blades and weapons and armor of immeasurable strength can be made. We could even come up with our own metal for this that can be made in this forge. Damascatine. No worries, FinFan. That's what the stream's for, to help you, get inspired in your own map making and campaigns and guide you towards, success in your map making and campaign journey. Like, we're here to be just one of the tools in your tool belt you as a DM use to produce your story, right? And we want to be a good tool that's complementary and useful and easy to use, but also has good community outreach and support at the same time. So we really love offering these streams as like a way to not only get to know our community, but provide them with, you know, real-time guidance and support. Yes, quick reminder, this Saturday, we will be having a very special guest on our stream, the creator of Dungeon Alchemist and one of our devs and our lead artist, Wim DeHare. He'll be here answering questions, likely sharing teasers and information about our next update, Fun with Objects 2, and the future of Dungeon Alchemist. So if you can, make sure you set aside some time for next Saturday so you can tune in and get to know our dev team like never before. You know, Finn, you can also, one thing though about the streams, if you miss them, right, due to work, obligations, or family or whatever, you can always watch the VODs after, because there's a recorded stream on YouTube and on Twitter, or I mean on Twitch, that you can watch. Additionally, if you have questions for the stream and can't make it, I usually once a week will post and say, hey, if you have questions for our stream, both in our Discord as well as on our social media, you can ask the question below that post, and then during the stream question segments or the interview segment, we'll ask your question and record it and send you a clip of it after the fact. So if you can't be live on the stream, you can always ask your questions beforehand in our Discord or social media. If you're a member of our Discord, there's actually a channel called The Damn Show, and it's called Damn Show Questions. There's a segment for the third, right? Here, let me just grab the links. Of course, but if you can't, you know, always be here, at least you can drop a question on our social media and we'll try and address it on the stream and send you a clip. That way you can be included. You know what I mean? But the link I just dropped goes right to our next stream where you can ask questions for Wim or our question segment. So the interview segment, you can ask questions for the interviewee, Wim, and then we have a question segment that's more like support and guidance. So one is more like, hey, learning about the development of DA and up and coming, peeling back the curtain. The other one is like, hey, I'm trying to figure out how to build this style of map. Can you help me? Or I'm struggling with the export. Can you help me? Etc. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Again, my name is Mac, the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. Again, I just want to remind everyone that watching, Dungeon Alchemist is currently on sale. It is 20% off, regardless of your region. If you are looking to get Dungeon Alchemist, or you've had it in your wish list for a while, or you've been sitting on the fence, now's the time to buy it. It'll be the best deal you can get on it. Additionally, if you have friends or family member or maybe a player in your group who's looking to start GMing, might be a great time to gift them that copy. You know, it's that time of year, of course, and also it's a great deal, so why not? Thank you everyone for being here. Appreciate you also very, very much. We'll be back on Saturday with that amazing stream with Wim. And before we wrap up today, I'm going to run a quick Dungeon Alchemist themed ad. It is not an ad from any other company or a Twitch ad. It is our own ad. One moment. Stand by. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you next time. I give a damn. Mac out. Bye.
You stand before the long, dark road to the fabled realm of Goyak Ta, and before
What do we see?
I don't know, a goblin.
I kill him.
But before she does, I, Gilliam of Firth, demand to know the goblin's name.
Hi, my name is Woblin.
Where do you live there, Woblin?
I don't think that's relevant.
Well, but I, Gilliam of Firth, demand to seek the goblin's abode.
Clever. Find family. Kill entire bloodline. I like it.
Seriously, we're doing this? well, won't be needing that anymore, will I?
Ever get caught by your players with your pants down? Dungeon Alchemist lets you create wonderful maps for any encounter in seconds.
Oh, Woblin, that's a very impressive cheese collection you've got there.
Yeah, it is quite impressive, yes. But you know what's more impressive? This map I have to the
Fabled realm of Goyak Ta. Please take it and leave. Close the door behind you.
Mr. Woblin, I cannot help but notice that you have a secret tunnel underneath your cabinet. Care to explain?
Download Dungeon Alchemist, the AI-powered mapmaker, on Steam today.